Wait, I almost forgot. All right. Oh yeah. Now we're ready for a video. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Cards and Coffee, and on today's deck talk, we're going to be digging into a deck that went basically untouched on the ban list and is arguably one of the best decks of the format. Swordsoul was one of the most dominant decks of last format, and with all the new cards and the new ban list, a lot of people have been trying out a bunch of new decks to try to play, and really, you probably don't need to play something different. This deck is still just as insane as last format. Now, yes, you don't have Protos, so you don't have that auto win button like you did before, but this deck has always been very good at putting up a fairly decent first turn board, and going second with the Tangies has always been very powerful. Not only that, but this deck doesn't have a hard counter, so really, even going second, this deck more times than not can play the game. With the new ban list and the new card pool with Grand Creators and now Battle of Chaos, this deck has had to make some changes, and really it doesn't change how the deck plays, but really it just gives it more options when trying to go second, or even playing through hand traps, really. Another up-and-coming variant of this deck is the Punk Swordsoul deck, and the Punk engine is very great at going Halqifibrax, so while it does something very similar to this deck, you really have to cut back on the Tenyis, which in my opinion are the most powerful cards in this deck. So even though the Punks are very great, unless you can fit the Tenyis alongside it, you're going to probably be giving up one thing for another. Now again, there's really not a wrong way to build the deck, but in my personal testing and personal opinion, having access to the Halqifibrax combo to fall back on is something that's very, very great for this deck, but not something you need to turbo into with the Punk engine. Now, you could technically cram all the engines in one deck. You would probably have to play like 50 cards or cut all your going second cards to make it work, but really, we'll leave it up for debate. I'll give you guys the card by card, show you exactly what I'm playing, and hopefully by the end of this profile, you guys will have an opinion on whether or not this variant is the best Swordsoul variant. But first, as always, guys, go do what I just did. Go grab yourself a cup of coffee or something. That way you guys can sit down and tune in. Thanks, guys. Alright, so we're going to hop straight into the main deck. I've already explained these cards pretty in detail in the last couple deck profiles I've done on the deck. So if you're really looking for something a little more in depth on what exactly these cards do, go check out one of my other profiles. I go into what these cards do fairly decently. So, starting things off, of course, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Ecclesia. This is just one of the best starters in your deck. It does play into quite a bit of hand traps, but it's just so strong going second. It's a Lone Fire Blossom, it's a Pankratops. There are so many things that are amazing about it. The fact that it's a tuner as well just helps you set up Halqifibrax plays, so really, in my eyes, this card obviously is a staple 3. After the Ecclesia, of course, we are on 3 copies of Mo Yi. This is fairly standard. I don't really think there's any reason to explain this. After that, we have the 2 Taya. Again, very standard. I could see you arguing to play one, but really, sometimes you need this first turn, so having a second in deck for the grind game is super essential, at least in my opinion. And of course, for the last Swordsoul, we are on 3 Long Yuang. This is just the best extender in the deck, setting up Baron or really any level 10 plays. Long Yuang, one of my favorite cards in the deck, and while I've seen some people play 2, me personally, I just can't justify not running this at 3. That's it for the Swordsouls. Again, that's fairly standard across maybe 99% of decks. But moving on to the Tangies, we are of course going to be on 3 copies of Ashina. All these Tangies are very amazing. I think you can look at last format to see why they are so good. Obviously, being able to start your play without normal summoning, or even just throwing them on the field at the start of your turn. That way, if you get hand trapped somewhere else, you can fall back on this engine to help climb through things. Ashina locks you into worms, but really it's the most powerful Tenyi, so you have to max out on it. And again, if you're playing the Punks, then Ashina's kind of restricting, so I don't know. After the Ashina, since we are on the Halqifibrax combo, we are maxing out on 3 Adhara. Adhara being the level 1 tuner you can just freely throw on the board, and obviously being able to recycle all your banished cards for follow-up. Adhara is definitely one of my favorite Tenyis in the deck right now, and since we've maxed out on 3, I'm only playing 2 Vishuddha. Vishuddha is very powerful, and I could definitely see myself playing 3, but since we have 3 Adhara to recycle it, 2 is really all I've needed. As for the Vishuddha, I am still opting to play the one Shathana. I don't know how many times I have started my turn off with an Ashina and then followed up with something like a Moyi and Taya, just to get hit with Ghost Ogre, and while this deck can play through Imperm and Valor fairly well, Ghost Ogre can get kind of annoying, so having the target in deck for Ashina to special summon to the field actually comes up quite often for me. Ghost Ogre has definitely seen a lot more play recently thanks to the adventure package, so when building this deck, I definitely want to factor that in because it's something that I expect to see pretty often. That's it really for the engine stuff outside of the one Despot 001. Again, this is really just what you bring out off of Halqifibrax to really set up all your synchro climbing plays. And yeah, it's kind of lame to draw every once in a while, but even if you do, you can still do your combo. But obviously, it's a level 1 tuner, so if you open Ashina or Vishuddha, you could always special those to the field and then normal summon this guy to get a level 8 synchro. If you don't know what 001 does, basically, while it's in the grave, if ever there are 2 or more machines that are special summoned to the field at once, you can bring it back from the grave for free. Again, we aren't playing the punks, so it's not like we're trying to turbo into the Halqifibrax combo, but having the combo in deck just makes it to where even if you get hand trapped, your board can get very, very insane. Moving on to the hand traps, we're on 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. Obviously, Ash is just one of the most generic hand traps in the game right now, so of all the hand traps, this is definitely one I like to max out on. Right now, I am currently playing a teleport package in the deck, so for that reason, I am maxing out on 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Really, I think I would rather play 2, but again, I just don't want to be in a situation where I don't have one in deck for a teleport. Ghost Ogre is obviously really amazing right now, helping you stop the Brave package, and even drawing it as the 6th card for turn will help out the Griffin Rider, which is really amazing. Plus, not only that, it's a level 3 tuner, so worst case, you could summon it alongside one of your Tangies and really just make a Baron. Ghost Ogre has always been one of my favorite hand traps since it came out, and any format that I get to play it, I definitely am going to try to squeeze it in whenever I can. Now, I am playing one more hand trap, and I have been going back and forth on what exactly I want to play, but right now, I've cut the Imperms, and I am on 2 copies of Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. Ghost Bell is a very amazing card this format. Obviously, there are so many different things you can stop. Not only can you stop the adventure package, but it's also another card that can help stop Scythe from coming back from the grave. Plus, with Eldritch running around and even decks that run DPE, having a card like this is super versatile, and really, I'd love to fit a 3rd in the deck. It's super amazing. Moving on to the spells, we are on 3 copies of Swordsoul Emergence. Obviously, the ban list did not hit this card, so we're definitely going to be playing 3. It's Rhoda, you know, what can I say? Like I mentioned earlier, we are on the 3 copies of Emergency Teleport. Not only being able to set up your Halqifibrax plays, but going second, it can even set up Yazi plays to break boards. This card is super versatile, and even going first, if you don't use it, you could always set it as an interruption to tutor out your Ghost Ogre from deck. It's pretty crazy. After the teleport, I am on 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. I've said this in multiple deck profiles, but especially right now in this format with Scythe running around, you definitely want to be playing this card if you can afford it. Droplet is just one of the best cards in the game, being able to help you break boards, and then obviously being able to set it when going first. This card is super versatile, and for that reason, I definitely think it's a staple 3 of. After the Droplet, I am still on 2 copies of Heavenly Dragon Circle. Imperm and Valor are slowly fading away, and while they're still around, I still feel like this card is very good. Helping you play through hand traps and dodge interruptions, this card is so amazing, and while it can't search Protoss for you anymore, it's still an insanely versatile card. Plus, again, it helps set up Halqifibrax plays too. You can tribute off your token in special Adhara from the deck. It might not come up all the time, but the fact that you have that option just makes this deck that much better. After the circle, I am still on the lone Pot of Desires Rest in Peace. It's really sad that this card is at 1, but you know, it is what it is. We're definitely still going to be playing it. It's a Pot of Greed, so why not? For the last card in the deck, we are on the 1 Blackout. Definitely could see myself playing 2 in the future, but right now, with the space that I have in the deck, Blackout at 1 is what I'm running right now. Moving on to the extra deck, we are on 2 copies of Monk of the Tenyi. I really would love to play 3, but you have to make some cuts for the Halqifibrax combo, so this was really the first thing on my list to cut. After that, we are still on the 1 Shaman of the Tenyi. This card's super amazing and really helps you break boards, especially in some awkward situations through hand traps. To be completely honest, I really don't see myself ever not playing this card. Now again, we did cut the 1 Monk, that way we can fit the Halqifibrax. Again, any tuner, any non-tuner, you can make this guy, bring out the Despot, and then you'll have 2 machines to make way for the Auroradon. Auroradon will get you 3 tokens on the field, and then the Despot brings itself back. And now you've got a level 10 play or a level 7. Really, it's up to you. And I'll show you a quick combo after just to kind of give you an idea of what it can do. After the links, we move on to the synchros. Of course, we're going to be playing double Shishao. This is just the best in-engine synchro for the deck. Searching out whatever you need and obviously being an interruption for the deck. Super amazing. We got the 1 Shangying. I don't play the new level 10 from the set. Even though I would love to fit it in, I still feel like Shangying is infinitely better. And like I mentioned, space is really tight. So yeah, I'm not going to go make room for it if I don't need it. After the Shangying, of course, we're on the Baron de Fleur. This is super easy to make in this deck. Then for the Yangzing package, we have the 1 Yazi and the 2 Baxia and the 1 Xiaofeng. This package is super standard, and it's still really amazing to go into, especially with all your Tangies. Again, you don't need the Halqifibrax combo to win the game. It's just another thing you can fall back onto when your opponent's trying to throw a bunch of hand traps at you. After that, I've got 2 more tech slots for the deck. Of course, we're going to be playing the 1 Draco Berserker. I personally feel like this is staple just because it's a Tenyi name. And the last monster I'm playing is the 1 Omega. Omega is very amazing at recycling your Tenyies, but also being able to go into it before you commit to any other play, ripping a card out of your opponent's hand, and then going full combo after that. It's really amazing. Alright, so there are a bunch of combos that I could go through, but I really just wanted to touch on what exactly the Auroradon accomplishes for your deck. And again, it's not something that you're gunning for first turn unless your hand is insane, but it's just something that's very nice to fall back on after your opponent's throwing a bunch of hand traps at you. More times than not, you'll just summon Adhara, and then if something like your Moyi or your Taya gets negated, then you'll go into Halq. Or like I was just saying, if your Moyi gets negated, then you can always activate something like Teleport to get yourself a Ghost Ogre and go into Halq that way. For simplicity's sake, we'll say you start your turn with Adhara, and then maybe you normal the Moyi and it gets negated with something like Imperm. Now you'll be able to link the 2 off, summon yourself a Halqifibrax, activate the effect to summon the Despot from deck, and of course, immediately after that, you'll link them off into the Auroradon. Auroradon will activate, giving you 3 tokens, and then the Despot will activate, recovering itself from the grave. And now you're really left with 2 choices. If you have a bunch of extenders in your hand to keep playing after this, then maybe you'll just sync all these off into a Baron de Fleur. Having an Omni Negate for whatever the heck you're going to do next is always really amazing. But if you don't have a bunch of extenders, or maybe you want to do something a little more aggressive, you can now sync the Despot off with 2 of the tokens, summon yourself a Yazi to the field, and then you can use the Auroradon, tributing off the token to pop the Yazi on your field. Yazi's effect will now activate, and you can summon Taya from the deck. We'll use the Taya effect of banishing something like this Moyi to get your token. And since this combo was with Adhara, it's actually really amazing because now you could use the Adhara to add this Moyi back to hand, giving yourself free fodder to discard for a future Long Yuan play. Shishao will hit the field, Taya can dump something like Ashina, and of course, like I mentioned, Shishao can now search the Long Yuan, or you can even get the Emergence to search the Long Yuan, whatever you want. Now we can pitch the Moyi we just added back, summon the Long Yuan to get a token. You're locked into Synchros because of the Auroradon, so if you really wanted to, you could use Ashuna to bring something out from the deck. You could easily make another level 8 Synchro if you really needed to. But again, since we can't really link summon right now, I don't know if I'd really want to commit to anything like that. So instead, I'd probably just synchro these off into a Baron. Long Yuan would burn for 12, and well, you just got hit with a hand trap, and you still ended with Shishao Baron de Fleur. And again, your hand might have had other extenders, or maybe it even had a Long Yuan already in hand. So really, the sky's the limit. Having all these extra options just because Halq is in the deck makes it to where, really, as long as you sequence your plays correctly, you should be able to play through most hand traps. So that's all the time I have for today. I really appreciate that you guys tuned in. This channel has been growing way faster than I ever thought it would, and it's all thanks to people like you. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, give it a like and comment down below. What do you guys think? Is this variant the best variant of Swordsoul, or is the Punk engine just that much better? Here's hoping to see you guys next time. Peace.